for coming. Head coach Paul Haynes is joined by senior defensive end Terrence Waugh. Coach will start us out with an opening statement.
Disappointing loss to Alabama. Good football team, great experience. We did a couple, neat things with our guys that I think was, I wouldn't say life-changing, but I think eye-opening, for them going to the Civil Rights Institute and had some pretty good barbecue, I would say. But again, Alabama's a good football team. In those games like that, your margin for error are very, very slim and very, very small. And, gave them a couple plays with bad discipline on the defensive side of the ball. And then when they hunker down on defense, man, it's tough to move the football. But kind of what you expected from the number one team in the country.
Can you just talk about, obviously a really difficult non-conference schedule and how you come out of that? Just, did you get what you wanted to out of it? How you feel about the team coming out?
I feel good about the team. I don't like the injuries. I mean, we've killed ourselves injury-wise, with it at really key positions, in this 4-week span. So you always want to come out of these games healthy, and we didn't do that. Our preparation and the way our guys prepare, the way we go out there and practice, the way that we play, we play hard. We just got to get a little bit more discipline. That's kind of what we talked about this morning, of just making sure that we are truly attention to detail in everything that we do. So when the lights come on and you got to perform out there, that we can do it, at that time. But, it's a couple things that's just like, man, you didn't do it all week, and then all of a sudden, you go out there and you do it. And, again, that's one of the games that you try to, I think, as a player, you may try to press a little bit too much, and you're playing, again, Alabama, number one team with all that, and you press it a little bit too hard, and you make a little bit more mistakes. But there's a lot of good in there, too, that happened. Again, they got up early, but there was a lot of good defensively in there, also, too. But just wish you didn't come out with so many injuries in key positions.
Paul, how did you feel yesterday morning? Obviously, the injuries bothering you, but was it any different than you thought you might feel the morning after Alabama?
No. And again, I think, me as a coach and these guys as players, we have been, I don't think we've ever played the number one team in the country, but we've been to, Ohio State, we've been to LSU, we've been to, places like that. So, my concentration is how can we get this football team better, not just, who you're playing and the hoopla of all that, who you're playing. So, really the concentration is what do we have to do to make sure that we move forward and get better.
Terrence, how did you feel yesterday morning?
Obviously, I didn't feel too good that we lost, but like you said, we did have some good things coming out of there. As a unit, I felt like once we got our feet set, I feel like in the beginning of the game, things were kind of sporadic because, we was in that environment, and we have young players that haven't been thrown in that fire yet. So once everything calmed down, I feel like we kind of buckled down, you know what I mean, and held our own.
Do you just kind of, you approach this as like a new season now, you just kind of flip a switch and here we go? Or how do you feel about going into MAC?
I wouldn't necessarily say I flip a switch. I approach every game at every opportunity that I have, play to play, game to game, no matter who the competition is. I just go out there and give it my all because that's how I've been coached to do since camp. My coaches just did a real good job with making sure they say everything matters. Nothing is more important than the next play or the next day or the next down. Everything has equal. Basically, everything matters the same. Nothing matters a little bit less or a little bit more. So I approach everything I do the same way.
Can you touch on that one as a coach? I mean, is it quote-unquote new season now or just rolling into it?
I think it always changes when you go into conference, to non-conference. But, kind of what Terrence just sat there and said, everything matters, and every game, matters in college football. Every game matters. It's not a preseason and a season and a tournament. Everything matters and every game matters. So is it just another opponent? Not this week, because of, who we're playing. But our preparation and how we prepare and how we practice and how we do those things will be all the same, but with a little bit more discipline.
We talked about before the season started about playing Akron now in your opener as opposed to at the end. Now that it's here, what do you guys think of this game, the timing of it?
I'm good with it. I mean, we can play it first, we can play it fifth, we can play it last. It's, I know this at 3:30 on Saturday, the ball is going to be kicked off, and it's against our rival, and it's against Akron. So, one of the best things, and we talked about it right after the game. I think one of the best things, being disappointed, so disappointed in coming out of Alabama, the best thing is start at Akron week. So you forget about it, you wipe it clean, and then you get ready to go play your rival. So our guys will be excited, our guys will be prepared, but wherever you put it, again, we control what we can control. That's something we don't control. So we just sit there and just go.
Can you touch on that as a player?
Saying that I'm excited is a big understatement because I didn't exactly get to play them last year due to injury. Like you said, it's a big rivalry, so it means a lot to the program. It means a lot to the community that we get the wagon wheel back. I really want to just go out there and do the very best that I can, and I want my teammates to be right there along with me to do the best that they can, and I know they're going to do that.
Really wasn't that long ago that you played these guys in the scheme of the seasons.
Mm-hmm.
They seem to have really changed a lot. I mean, they're obviously a defensive team last year. This year, offense, they scored enough points to win. This year, all of a sudden, they're putting some numbers up.
Yeah, I think again that the quarterback is playing very, very well. He's tossing the ball around. They got some very electric wideouts that are doing a good job of going up and attacking the ball and catching the ball. I know they've had some injuries, I think, at running back a little bit, and they still are balanced enough to to keep you on your toes as far as run pass, but doing a little bit more throwing than catching. Again, it's always hard when they spread you out and you got really good wideouts and you play man and then he scrambles and that's what he did to us, last year a lot. So you got to be smart on how you mix it up defensively, just to keep them on their toes also too. But this is a big challenge for our defense. It's going to be a big, challenge across the board. They're very good up front. They're good at wide out, and he is dangerous with throwing it and running it. So looking forward to it. Looking forward for the challenge for our defense.
How much do you see Woodson improving?
I think a lot. I think when you sit there and you talk about him reading defenses, I mean, you can see him now going to one side and coming back and throwing to the other based off the look, that he's getting. So I don't know if you saw that last year as much.
Lane, obviously another big receiver that you guys have had some issues with based on your size. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about, I don't know what Monday's status is, but he would be the obvious guy on him, but just kind of talk about him in the matchup.
Yeah, and we don't play, we kind of just play left and right, corners. So, Jarrell's a big, tall wideout, for our big, tall corner that we have also too. But, hopefully we'll have Monday back. It's still day to day, as of right now. But, our young guys are out there battling too. I mean, they got to get better. We gave up a couple early against Alabama, which were, again, big, strong, wideouts also too. And, for the majority of that game, did a pretty good job on those guys and were physical on them. So, but they always pose a problem, and they're throwing it up. I mean, he's throwing it up like a punt. And those guys, their number 82 made an unbelievable catch versus Marshall, where he was falling and on the ground. So I think they have confidence. They definitely have confidence because they've made plays, and the more plays you make, the more confidence you're going to get to go up there and snag it. So again, I'm looking forward for that challenge for our guys.
Talk about facing their offense. What do you see there?
I didn't really get to go against their offense last year, but I mean, I see they have some new tackles. One JUCO, one transfer for Michigan, and you know they big, but I went against good tackles 3 out of the first 4 weeks, bigger tackles, and supposedly like more, you know, big name schools or whatever. But I like my chances. I like our team's chances. I like our D-line as a unit. I like us to be productive this game.
Can you just give us an update of your quarterback situation as you know it now?
Not good. Not good. I mean, we started with, with Agner, and he's gone. You know, Malik, we'll have to wait and see. He sees the doctors later this week, but it doesn't look good. So, we're down to, we'll move Colin back to quarterback, and get some reps, at quarterback and Bolus. So, it's where we are.
With Malik, when you say it doesn't look good, is you talking this week or extended
I'm talking
period
the rest
time?
of the season.
Was it because of how he landed, or was it something structural on that?
Yeah, I think it, when they looked at it could be a broken wrist. But initially you thought he put his hand down to stop it, but the guy landed right on him. So kind of strange the way it happened. Usually with a wrist, you think you're putting your hand down to brace your fall. That's initially what I thought, but the guy just landed right on him. So based off of where his wrist was, where the guy landed or whatever, it kind of happened.
Well, I mean, good news, obviously, George did start 6 games last year.
Yeah.
He went into the Alabama game and hung in there. Well, I'll just kind of talk about what he brings, and how nice it is to have a guy with experience and 3 quarterbacks deep.
Yeah, I think George is a tough kid. I think George is, he's one of those kids. George don't say a lot, at all, but he just goes out there and does his work, And I think, the players respect the hell out of him just because he works his tail off, So, and that's part of being a quarterback. He's battle tested. He's battle ready. And he's always prepares like crazy, to go out there and perform. So, we've always, Malik was his style of, more of a thrower a little bit. George is more of a runner, but we got to keep it balanced and be able to throw the football. We got to make sure, we throw the throws that he can throw and don't put him in a bad situation, from the calls that we give him. But, we've done that for the last year and a half. So, again, it's a part of the game. Guys get hurt all the time, and next man up, and let's get ready to roll. It's like I was talking to, Coach Page as we were walking up, who just had whatever triple or quadruple or 5 quintuple, heart surgery. It's hard for me to sit there and talk about a guy with a bad wrist, but, but again, it's next man up. I know this on Saturday at 3:30, the ball is going to be kicked off. And we're going to have guys out there that's going to play their tail off.
I mean, it's not like a deal with George, though. I mean, you don't need to do this with him, but, I mean, you're going to have to score to win this game. I mean, it's not like you're going to be able to win at 10-7 more than likely.
Right.
So, I mean, just talk about walking that line to where, you don't want to do too much with him, but yet you got to turn him loose to some extent.
Yeah, but I think you still got to do, what he does best. We're not going to put him in a situation to fail and say kind of, oh, well, he is what he is, and we'll come up with a great game plan so he can execute it. It still comes down to execution, and what we can execute is very important. So those are the things that we will give him. We won't give him no more, and we'll play good defense.
What's to say about him? Just one more about George and maybe even Colin as well.
Mm-hmm.
Those are guys that kind of got shoved aside, maybe be the wrong word, but passed by, whatever you want to say. And now here they are again, and you're really counting on them.
Yeah.
And they've kind of hung with you, though. I mean, a lot of people in those situations said, heck with this, I'm moving on or whatever. And they didn't. They're still here, and now here they are.
Yeah, I mean, I commend those guys, but, you know, again, the from what it looks like from the outside to what it is in the walls is always, you know, different. And those are a lot of conversations, and you talk about team guys, they're team guys, you know, and I think from day one when these decisions were made is what's best for the team. And those guys have bought in, you know, to the team concept. And it started, you know, really in January when we moved Colin to wideout. I think I said back then, one of the most things he was really upset, you know, about that whole situation is when we brought up to say, we understand if you want to transfer. And he's like, I'm not going anywhere. I want to get my degree from Kent State, and I want to be on this football team. So those guys have bought in to what we're doing. Those guys are team guys. They've always prepared, you know, and not been a distraction at any way. Is it disappointing? Yeah, it is. I'm sure it was, you know, for them. But, again, whatever's best for the team, those guys are all in.
Will Colin definitely see action like you've kind of done in the past, or is that not necessarily the case?
That's not necessarily the case.
One other thing you just mentioned, you mentioned defense right there at the end, and I know the way you kind of approach these games as a defensive guy, just do you kind of think, okay, offense got to do what it's got to do, but you kind of think in your defense needs to really be the kind of the key to this if you're going to win it?
Yeah, I think, again, and I agree with you, I think you got to score a point to win. I mean, that's bottom line. But they're not scoring on our offense. You know, they're scoring on our defense. And we have to play good defense to win this football game. You know, I would sit there and say they play good defense also, too. They're doing a lot of different things on defense. I mean, they got guys all over the place. They, you know, line their D tackle up at linebacker, you know, some of the times with the middle linebacker standing right behind him. So they're doing some unique things, you know, on defense to cause some havoc and everything, but they're putting up a lot of points, you know, and that's what's keeping them in ball games. And they've been down some ball games and came back and won with playing good defense and also getting big plays on offense. So it's still going to come down to us playing good defense. We're going to have to play great defense and put our offense in position to make plays.
Can you kind of talk about that? How you guys as a unit feel going into this game that you to do?
I mean, like our coach said, you know, we always have that mindset that to win games, you know, we're going to have to be, you know, stout on defense. But we never really worry about what the offense is doing because no matter what, we got to play our game no matter what the situation is. So regardless of what they're doing, if we up or if we down, we still got to play hard as we can. You can't be perfect, but you got to be perfect.
Is there anything else going into this game, like not necessarily the ordinary things, but you kind of look at as when you're playing Akron or a rival, and that's really important?
As far as
Just kind of, you know, obviously we talked about all the obvious things, but is there something else that comes to mind in this game in particular that you think you need to do?
win. I mean, they have something that we want, you know. So I think that's the main focus, and it's really not the end result of winning. It's the day to day. We sat and we met this morning, and we had them write down on a piece of paper, what do I have to do today to beat Akron? And then we'll do the exact same thing tomorrow, because it's really about what we do during the week that will give us the result that we want. So we need to concentrate on today. We need to make sure that we do everything we need to do today to make sure that we get the result that we want on Saturday.
Coach, can you talk about Justin Rankin's long run at Alabama? Is that a good sign of things to come for a freshman?
Yeah, I think, again, he broke a couple tackles in that run, you know, hit the hole, you know, very good. And, you know, I think we have a stable of backs, you know, though, with Rankin and Miles Washington and Will Matthews, all those guys that are getting, you know, touches, I think are playing, you know, good football for us. And very tough, hard-nosed runners that can get us some yards, you know, so I like all three of those guys.
One more, just about the atmosphere. I mean, you come from Alabama, and obviously the atmosphere, they're incredible. You got to a lot going in this one for you guys. I mean, it's your opener, it's homecoming, it's Akron. Just gonna talk about having all that in one game on a Saturday afternoon coming up.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, again, homecoming. You got Akron. You're at home. All of that, goes into this. And again, all that is we got to take care of what we can take care of in practice and on the field. But it is special for this university. It is special for this community. I believe Josh Cribbs is involved in it, also too. So when you got a former football player involved in it too, it's just a special deal. And I think it's icing on the cake when you involve Akron, into it too. I think homecoming is special, but when you involve Akron, it's a little bit more special, So those things, yeah, we'll make sure that we are a part of all that stuff, but we really got to concentrate on just doing the things that we need to do to get the result that we want on Saturday. But just like Terrence said, are we excited? Yes, we are. Is it a big deal? Yes, it is. But it still comes down to our preparation and execution.
Can you talk about the game?
I feel where a lot of people mess up is when, like how you mentioned, it's homecoming, all the stuff that's involved. When you put too much pressure on yourself, that's when people tend to mess up. For me, like you said, I'm just going to prepare the same way I've been preparing. I'm just going to play my game. Of course, it's going to be extra emotion going into it because it's Akron. But I'm always going to do what I've been doing, and that's coming on the field, giving my all, and producing for my team.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.